Welcome to the Same Day Podcast, where we discuss driving incremental business growth and other topics related to real estate, property management, and entrepreneurship. Now, to the show at hand.
Hello, Yoni Schmidt here, hosting today's episode of the Same Day Podcast, where I connect with top business and real estate leaders. Past guests include Chip Gabrino, a local entrepreneur restaurateur, Elliot Nelson, CEO of the McNally's Group, and Morgan Martin of Merrill Lynch. Today's episode is brought to you by Keyrenter Property Management. At Keyrenter Property Management, we are a full-service property management company helping clients buy, renovate, and operate real estate assets. We help our clients build wealth while taking the headache out of property management. That is why no matter what rental you have, single-family homes, condos, townhouses, apartments, we have the management solutions you need. Go to KeyrenterPMC.com or email us at info@KeyrenterPMC.com for more info. On today's podcast, we are thrilled to welcome Arturo Saldivar, a serial entrepreneur and managing partner at A&S Multifamily, a distinguished real estate investment firm focused on revitalizing and transforming communities. With over a half a decade of experience in the Oklahoma market, A&S Multifamily has been a driving force in redeveloping overlooked properties and turning them into a vibrant community. Arturo and his team have been involved in major acquisitions, including the transformation of a 60-unit apartment complex in East Tulsa that they turned into a thriving service-driven community, which I had the privilege of slightly being involved in. And their guided mission is to rejuvenate neighborhoods and build living legacies. A&S Multifamily continues to set standards in the multifamily property ownership and development. Join us as we dive into Arturo's journey in real estate, his insights into transforming communities, and his vision for the future of multifamily living. Welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being here, Arturo.
Thank you, Yoni. It's always a pleasure. And you make me sound too good, man. Too good.
No way.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, man.
Knowing all the things that you're doing, I think that intro was, just a sliver of the truth. Arturo, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started in real estate and what inspired you to focus on multifamily properties?
So thanks everyone. It's a pleasure being here on your podcast, Yoni. And we've been friends for a while, and we've done a bunch of real estate deals together, from single family. Now we've done a multifamily deal. So it's been great, and I value your friendship moving forward with anything, not just in business, but in life as well. And, I started back in 2014 flipping houses. So I grew up, in California, born and raised, moved out here till 2003, I believe it was, to Oklahoma. Had an uncle here and advised my mom, my dad, hey, we can better living out here. California's expensive. You have an opportunity to buy a home out here. So that's how I got here to Oklahoma. And my very first real estate deal came from a Craigslist listing, to be honest with you. And how that came about, my background has been in construction, and I've always been a mover and shaker, entrepreneur. Whatever could bring, I was the guy that if I didn't know, I would figure it out. So that kind of brought opportunities on the table for me. And that's kind of how I started in, construction, had a construction company, learned the trades, which what led me into the flipping side of things. And growing up, I always loved real estate, buildings, architecture. I always wanted to be involved in that field. For a while, I want to be an architect, design. I love the design work, coming in, visualizing, seeing something that's not there, but, seeing the after, how it will look. That's what I get a kick out of. And also just seeing the transformation. So that's kind of my little background of, why I went into real estate. And not only that, I just love buildings. I mean, just driving by, you have to realize that someone owns those things, and no matter how big or how small they are, someone owns them. So
yeah,
that was my thing. I was like, man, I want to learn that game, and kind of went into the flipping side of things. And, I had some money saved up from various, my regular job. Plus I always did side things, and I had 50,000 saved up back in 2014. And that's what I used to buy and rehab my first flip. I paid 15,000 for my first house. Put about 35,000 into the house, and it ended up selling it for like 92,000, I believe. So
Wow.
I ended up doubling my investment, and it made me realize, like, wow, I want to do 10 at a time, 20 at a time, right? So I did that. So then took the money and just kept going, kept going, kept going. I got to a point where only you could only do one or two deals with your money, right? So then I started learning about, private money and other ways of funding deals. And, coming from a minority family, it's the way you grew up, we're sometimes not taught on the financial literacy side of things and how things work here in the USA. Um, Banking, credit, personal financial statements, all that stuff. You know, it's not something that I grew up with, and, the importance of that. So the most important thing is you got to be bankable, right? You have to
Mhm.
have your stuff in line. And a lot of people don't realize how important it is to really have that. So in any business, I mean, the bank is your best friend. He's your partner. Um, and those are the requirements that they have. So you got to make sure that you're in line and with that, or else, I mean, to be able to scale to a different level, that's what you need to do. So once I learned that, you know, I realized, like, well, let's get to work. So that's what I did, but I didn't want to stop what I was doing. So at the same time as I'm working for my 2-year returns to happen, because that's what you need to be bankable, right? So your taxes, your
Mhm.
credit, income. And I was just focused on make as much money as possible, report every penny, because I know at the end of the 2 years, it's over. And going back to when I started, I was doing flips by myself, but then I learned about private money. And I went to a conference in Scottsdale uh, back then, and I knew I was going to be in a room full of real estate people. Either they were wanting to learn about real estate, or they were already investors, or they had money, right, to
Mhm.
invest. So I knew that if I wanted to meet new people that are in the industry, that I didn't have to convince to invest. Because, you know, a lot of people that have capital or have cash, they're very this,
They hold
they
it
don't
to
want
their
to see a
chest.
lot. Yeah. They put it
Yeah.
under the mattress, or they don't talk about their investments. But when you go to these places, right, they're there for the same reason that you're there for. So all you
Mhm.
have to do is either bring the right project or the right service, whatever it is, around those lines. And if it makes sense, then you don't have to convince somebody to do it. They're already halfway in when they showed up. So my theory behind that was be around those people that you don't have to convince. It's either
Mhm.
for them or not for them. And that's what I did. I went to this real estate conference. I paid, I think it was like $8,000. So I invested to go
Wow.
over here. But I knew strategically I did it, right? Because I knew I was going to be around those people. Fast forward, that weekend came. From that weekend, I raised 2.5 million in cash, and
Wow.
that kickstarted the flipping world. And there was at times I was doing 10, 15 flips at the same time. And that's kind of how, that escalated. And, for the first 2 years, it was just flip, 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 flip. And once I became bankable, then I started also flipping and
Mhm.
holding. But now, just me.
Yeah.
So that's how I got started. Now we made the jump to multifamily in 2017, and alongside with my partner Carlos, I met him playing soccer at Soccer City here in town. And one day we're just after the game, we were, talking and hanging out. And he asked me what I did, and he told me what he did. And it happened to be that he was doing real estate part-time on the side. He had his full-time career as an engineer. And he needed some help managing some of the properties because his job required him to travel outside the country. So when he was out, I was helping him here. And then we started accumulating some single family houses. But we realized like our goal was to scale, do bigger and bigger deals. And for us, what we saw was multifamily as being an avenue for us to, instead of doing 20 houses a year, whatever it was you were accumulating, to buying one building with 100 units or whatever it might be. So 2017, we started looking into it, started getting educated, investing in ourselves, and really understanding every aspect of it. The financial side, because as apartments, it's a business pretty much, right? So how you value that, it's always based on income and expenses. How do you increase the income and how do you reduce the expenses? A lot of it has to do on the operating side, right? So we learned it. And I remember back in 2017, 2018, 2019, end of 2019, we probably analyzed every apartment deal in town that was ever for sale. Like just to know like how it was performing and where it is now. We still have all the underwriting from back in the day. And it's amazing to see that, back then you were like, man, 35, 40,000 a door for a multifamily is expensive, right? Back then, now what are they trading for in the 60s and the 70s, maybe 50s, depending if it's a C minus property, something like that, without doing anything. So, and back then, we were just what we knew. But fast forward today, like, it's way different than it was then.
Yeah.
So it took us, we ended up buying our first deal back in 2020, beginning of 2020. And it was a 34 unit property, which was a complete disaster. And the funny thing, how I came across the property was it was a wholesale deal that I was looking for, and it was a duplex. And for some reason, I couldn't find that duplex, the address. So I pulled into this neighborhood, and I'm in my car, trying to find this address on in this neighborhood, and I just look across the street, and I just see this apartment building it's kind of hidden, the one behind the Little Caesars, 50% Sheridan area.
Yeah.
So as I'm sitting there, I looked up and I just see a disaster, right? But as an entrepreneur, as a real estate investor, as the experience that I have with dealing with flipping houses, the more deteriorated they are, the better they are to buy, because you can get them at a super discounted rate. And that's kind of our model, is like how that came about was delivering a product that's top notch for a property in any area that we own. So it doesn't matter if you live out south or you live north or east or west, you're going to get the same product from us every single time. How we're able to do that? By focusing on the front end, which is the acquisition price. So that's our main thing, is that if we could get it for the right price, we can invest 40,000 a door or whatever it might be, right? So if we're getting for 30, we're in 70, then we're doing well, right? Because and the reason being, our first property that we bought, it's funny. I'm standing in front of in front of this building, and then right away I looked up the county assessor, and the way it was deeded, the way it was on title, I knew right away who prepared the documents, what attorney did, because that's the same attorney that I use, and how he sets up title. So I called them right away and I said, "Hey, do you know the owner of this property?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I set it up. I set up all his stuff," and he knew him for years. I was like, "I want to buy it. Can you ask him?" And he's like, "I'll reach out to him." And that's kind of how that conversation started. Fast forward,
I love that.
we completely renovated it, night and day, and the impact that it had in all the community around there. Before, you wouldn't see kids outside playing. Now you go by those kids playing outside. It's completely changed the whole neighborhood. So the impactfulness that you're able to do when you're doing something like this is more fulfilling than the actually making a dollar. It's just you're literally
Yeah.
changing people's way of life. So that was a great project. Learned a lot from studs out. We redid everything, and we ended up just selling that property this year, and we ended up setting the record price per door in this market for a non-new construction garden style, 80s built complex. So
Nice.
124,000 a door.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I've seen your product. I was, personally involved on that acquisition of the 60 door units that I was brokering in East Tulsa, and I distinctly remember, the entire process. And I was so impressed with you and your team, the way that you, worked with the entire with all the teams that were involved, right, all the way to the appraisal, which we then brought to the property, and then we took to another property to show them, the top notch quality product that you and your team just end up putting together. And I guess it's no secret. Well, maybe some people don't know that you're the big dog in Oklahoma, but it's also no secret that A&S's motto is transforming communities into living legacies. Talking about that and hearing you talk about the the process of how you came into real estate, how you came into multifamily, what you've been doing, watching you grow into hundreds of units now, multi-million-dollar acquisitions, dispositions, and renovation projects, and having somewhat of an, not very intimate, but somewhat intimate understanding and, relationship with members of your team, and seeing what you guys are doing. It's just so impressive. And I love seeing you guys win these deals because you're really changing the face of the neighborhood. Tell me, how did you come up with this motto, and what does it mean to you personally?
Well, the model was actually was created by my partner Carlos. And one day we had just purchased it, and we were like, let's think of the name. What are we gonna call it? And the next day he came and he told me that he had this vision, and he had, you know, this came to his mind and his heart, and it just fit who we were about, and being impactful, something that not just for the tenants, but for us to be proud of. That say, because as you know, a lot of owners, some of them don't want to be known that they own them, right? Because they're such in bad shape, or they don't want to, to that nature. For us, it was like we want to be the face. They want to
Mm-hmm.
ask about who owns this, like right away, because we're proud of what we do. So we want to be able to leave a legacy or impact, not just in the community itself and with residents that are living there, but also when we're no longer here, knowing that, hey, these guys, they touched a project, that it was more than just the financial aspect that they were doing it. It was more of an impactful way. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how the name came to us, was through my partner Carlos.
Love that. Yeah. We'll definitely have to get Carlos on here too to chat about how he came up with it.
Yeah.
Talking about multifamily acquisitions, those involve complex negotiations and financials, like you mentioned. What advice would you impart to someone looking to enter, the multifamily real estate sector? Someone new into the industry, maybe they're looking at their first duplex or quadplex. I remember you sold me 3 duplexes out there on Winston, and to Matt Zalk
Yeah.
and I, which we didn't flip, but we renovated, and now we're exchanging. What would you tell someone like myself who wants to come into the industry and buy my first little multifamily?
I would say education, educate yourself first, read, and, foremost that, because a lot of people, they want to get started, they want to learn, they're eager, they're hungry. But when it comes to the hard work or the tedious work, there is no shortcut for that. So I would say, educate yourself, read, understand the language, the lingo, become a real estate agent. Not necessarily saying that you're gonna, and I'm not a real estate agent myself, but if I was to come in now and I wanted to learn something new, and it's like a new language, right? Because you probably never heard of certain terms or certain things. So really just being involved in the space, right? And being an agent allows you to learn the language, create relationships, right? And at the same time, you start attending, these RIA meetings or people like yourself, property managers, brokers, establishing those relationships right away. But not only that, you got to build yourself up first. And when you do meet these people, you're showing up with value. You're not asking for something, you're offering something. And that's different because you're going to to meet a lot of people that don't have a lot of time, right? And you want to make sure that they value you, that that they know that you value their time. So become as valuable as you can. Put all these tools in your tool bag, so whenever you come across those situations, that you have something to offer rather than, hey, teach me or this, right? So that's my 2 cents is to learn everything about it and continue to be a student, because I'm not no expert. I don't know everything, and I'm always learning. And you just have to have that open mind, you know, to receive any information, whether it's good or bad. But at least you take it in, you analyze it, and then you make your decision on how you're going to go about it. And just being around the right people, will lead to many doors that would open. And at the end of the day, it's up to you to build yourself up, and the right opportunities will come to you because of who you are and what you bring to the table. And another thing is huge: Excel, Microsoft Excel. How important is that? A lot of people, I always tell people really oversee that, right? Like, yeah, everybody knows, like, some people know Excel, but like,
Oh yeah,
isn't that something you use every day in your business?
every
Right?
day. I mean, I have two Excel spreadsheets open right now. One of them is a bid for you on a massive project that we're not going to name, but it's important to know exactly what you're doing in Excel. Yeah.
Exactly. So if I was to go back, like, I always think, man, I wish I would have just took so many courses on Excel, because there's so much you can do. And it's a software that everyone uses in every industry pretty much. And,
Yeah.
real estate is all about numbers. You have to make the numbers work. And if you can't make them work, it's not a deal. I don't care how pretty it looks.
Yeah.
It's all about numbers, and really understanding, analyzing your market, studying your market, being a student of your market, where it's trending, where it's gentrifying, all those little things, days on market. A lot of agents, you know, don't know all these little things or know exactly that tells you so much. Days on market's a huge thing. Tells you how the market's doing. In every neighborhood, or, every part of the city might have different days on market for neighborhood, for zip code, whatever it is. So, from an investor looking in, you can literally look at a different city or a different state, and all you have to do is look at days on market. If the days on market are 0 to 30, then you have a hyper market. You want to be in that market. If it's 30 to 60, then it's a fair market. 60 to 90, hey, you're good. It's average market. Anything above 90 to to 120, then you have to really realize, hey, do I really want to be in here or not? Right. So all those little things that a lot of people, don't see that's really important, they tell you a lot. So really
that's a good
understanding
little tidbit of information there. Yeah, a little nugget for someone listening to us.
And it works. I'm telling you, it works. So my first Oklahoma City single family house I purchased was in the Paseo district. years ago. And I've never been there, never even drove the city, nothing. I've been to Oklahoma City, but I wasn't familiar with sale. It was an up and coming area.
I
How
used
did
to
I
live
find
there
that? Did you?
in the
How did I find it?
Northwest 29.
So how did I find out? Literally behind the computer here in Tulsa. I just looked days on market. Wherever I found the less days on market, started looking there. And I ended up buying this house, renting it, holding it for like 3 years and selling it and making a great return on my money. And, I've never even, like really was there, only
Yeah.
from the beginning to initiate the remodel, and then everything was done from here. So days
Yeah.
on market.
So aside for that, project, tell us a little bit about, the most rewarding project that you've worked on so far, and why did it stand out to you, if you could think of something off the top of your head?
I would say being part of a nonprofit board, um, and what we're doing and the mission, the impactfulness to the community. I'm part of Growing Together, which is a nonprofit board for the Kendall Whittier area. And it's
Mhm.
really the impact that it's making because, growing up, you are a product of your community, your environment, right? And with all the gentrification that's happening on these little pockets of town are pushing people away because they can't afford how expensive it's getting. People don't realize you sell a property, it doesn't just affect you, or it affects everyone else because in values, property taxes, things start going up. Well, it's it's um it's it's a organization that we look for. We want to help the people in the community stay in the community, and we're now buying real estate properties in that area, holding them to give affordability for the families that are living there. Because you are a product of your environment and your community. So if you're a kid and you have to move away and have to go to a different school, like that's going to affect you, and it
Yeah.
does. It affects who you are. If you're around bad situations, most likely you're probably going to be not too far from that tree. You know what I mean? So it's very impactful what we're trying to do, and I enjoy it, and I look forward to being value and whatever I can add. So I'm part of kind of the real estate side of things and kind of overseeing and giving my 2 cents from my experience. And I would say that's probably the most impactful thing I'm part of right now.
Nice. Love that. Um, Shifting gears back to, the business side a little bit, what does success look like for you personally and for A&S Multifamily over the next decade? What are your long-term goals, if you're willing to share some of that?
Yes, our 10-year goal is 10,000 doors. So
Wow.
yeah, so we have a long way to go, but we're strolling through.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's
10 years,
a
10,000,
lofty
ten
goal.
thousand doors. Yeah.
And
And 20,
you passed 1,000?
no, not yet. Not
Not
yet.
yet.
No. We've, you know, we've grown organically. So over the years until recently, we then started partnering. So we've been scaling kind of organically with our own capital. And now within the last 12 months, we've been working with other groups and to partner and possibly do deals together to be able to scale bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's the goal for 2025, and a lot other things that we're working on, but
Yeah,
are the scope
which
of it.
I'm a little familiar with some of the projects in your pipeline right now, which we're not going to delve into too much. Very exciting stuff. Um, Tell us though, for aspiring real estate investors and developers listening today, or in the future, what's one piece of advice that you wish someone had given to you when you were starting out, aside for, of course, the growth piece which we talked about, and learning Excel. What's one thing that, you would tell someone, look, at the end of the day, nitty gritty, this is one thing that, I look back and say, I wish I knew, or I wish I should have done?
I wish I would have, you know, been more out there, creating more and more relationships from the very beginning. I've always been kind of, on the back and kind of, I don't want to be on the spotlight, kind of, because as you grow as an entrepreneur, you feel, I still don't feel, well, I'm nobody. I'm just everyday Joe trying to learn
Same.
and grow. And
Yeah.
so I wish I would have just made more connections and been more open to that part of the game. And because you never know, I mean, relationships are is what leads you to many opportunities that, you never knew you would be even open to. So I would say just be open, be approachable. Don't be that guy that knows everything, or thinks they know everything. Listen, and then take all that in. Take all that in and create your own outcome based on all your experience, everything that you went through, all that time you invested in yourself to empower yourself to get better, to create that value. So that's the area I would think I would definitely do is create more relationships and just be an open book. So.
Yeah, love that. Arturo, for the sake of time, I know that your time is super valuable, and that you have a couple more things to do this evening. Thank you so much for being here, recording this podcast with us, imparting some of your wisdom. I look forward to, our continued friendship and working together on projects now and in the future. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Yoni, for having me. And it's always a pleasure. I enjoyed being here, and I look forward to doing more in the future. So thanks again.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Same Day Podcast. Tune in to a new show each week and be sure to subscribe to get future episodes.